Today we're exploring the emotional and subconscious roots of GERD, or gastroesophageal reflux disease, commonly known also as acid reflux. Welcome back to the Mind Change Podcast. I'm your host, Heather McKean. Please take a moment to like, subscribe, share, and comment. It really helps to spread mind change to more people so that they can find the transformation within themselves. Medically, GERD happens when stomach acid repeatedly flows back into the esophagus, irritating the lining and creating burning sensations or heartburn. It can even cause chronic throat issues. It's often blamed on diet, stress, or even a weak sphincter muscle. But through the mind change lens, GERD is much more than a digestive issue. It's a symptom, oftentimes of suppressed emotion, unspoken truth, and the body's inability to digest what life is serving up. People with GERD often describe feeling like they are being eaten alive from the inside, which is actually a perfect metaphor for anger, fear, bitterness, or resentment that is often turned inward. So some of the subconscious themes around GERD are unspoken words. So this could be swallowing our words or our truth so that we can be accepted or to avoid conflict. It's also really common when there's suppressed emotion. So if we're holding back anger or disgust or even grief, if you hold it long enough, it can become toxic. Also, like I mentioned before, fear of confrontation. So this would be someone staying silent to keep the peace, even if it burns us inside. It can also be an indicator that someone might be resisting change. So they're struggling to digest new circumstances, transitions, life stages, or loss. Another really common thing with GERD is feeling guilt over being joy or having joy. So this could be that feeling like happiness or success isn't safe because it could be punished or taken away. Or you were raised to feel that you maybe don't deserve or shouldn't take for granted all that you have. And so all of the good things you have are shaded over with either a large helping or a sprinkle of guilt. It could also be control and fear of rejection. And this often comes and manifests in people who are staying in unhealthy situations out of fear or out of being left alone or being rejected, or that they may not find another person or another job. So it's really tied to like a lack kind of mentality as well. In short, GERD is the body's way of saying, I can't stomach this anymore. Now, what the this is could be any number of things and for any number of reasons. But let me share a client example with you. And we're going to call this client Naomi. So Naomi had lived most of her life feeling like she needed to keep the peace. She was the peacemaker. Growing up in a strict, moralistic home, she learned early that speaking up led to punishment or rejection in the form of being sent to her room or being withheld love, acceptance, or approval. So her parents' love seemed to come with strings attached. So she'd get approval, but only when she was quiet, compliant, easy, or agreeable. But on the other hand, if there was ever big shows of emotion, like big spark of joy or really excited, that was met on the other side with disapproval or guilt or comments like, hey, don't get too full of yourself. Don't get carried away. So as an adult, Naomi does what we all do. She brought those patterns forward into her life and relationships. So as an adult, Naomi becomes a caretaker, a people pleaser, a master at emotional containment. That led to her staying in relationships, friendships, jobs that were toxic or unhealthy, or that eventually just eroded her spirit because she feared that if she didn't do what she needed to do in these relationships, she'd be left utterly alone. And she feared being alone more than she feared being unhappy. When she began to experience chronic acid reflux, she first, like many of us, blamed spicy food or coffee, but then she completely changed her diet and the burning persisted. She eventually heard about mind change and had some sessions, and her practitioner helped her realize that what her body had been saying for all of these years, through the reflux, through the pain, through the burning, was that she had been swallowing every no, every that's not okay, every this doesn't feel good or this doesn't feel right. She was swallowing it all down. Her body was literally pushing back what her voice could not. And Naomi, like most of us, didn't just arrive there as an adult. So very frequently, these things begin in childhood roots. So some of the childhood drivers here that might set the stage for GERD later in life are being raised in a home where emotions were suppressed or punished, or like I said before, being made to feel guilty for joy or success, or even expressing yourself. There may have been judgment or ridicule from controlling or authoritative figures in your life, and you would have felt like you had to swallow your truth to stay safe or accepted. It also might be that you grew up around a lot of anxiety or a lot of criticism, or in the family, just chronic, constant tension. And so then through witnessing all of that conflict, you learned that silence equaled survival. You may have been taught to obey and endure, to not question authority, or don't express dislike or dis-ease over something. It's possible that you sensed that your mother was very fearful, very anxious, and therefore maybe very controlling. And she may even have been stressed while you were in utero. So that could have set the stage very early for being the one who kind of takes all of the stuff around and becomes a buffer. Now, all of these things and more, again, this list is never exhaustive, but by adulthood, some of these subconscious lessons will appear as chronic self-suppression. So this is where we see people have very difficult time voicing needs or fears or establishing and maintaining boundaries, as well as having a high tolerance for toxic situations. So staying in those unhealthy jobs or relationships to avoid rejection. And very frequently there is a program of over-responsibility. So trying to fix everyone else's problems, even at your own expense. And then again, commonly there's guilt. So sometimes this doesn't seem like it's guilt, but it's that thing of like waiting for something bad to happen when life feels good. You kind of hear it's like waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like, oh no, things can't get too good. When things get too good, something's bound to go wrong. Something bad's going to happen. This also manifests often in adults as control issues. So this could be someone who's kind of like clinging to predictability and or schedules or things just being just so. And that's in an effort to offset what was perceived to be early childhood chaos or helplessness. And then again, as we referenced before, another adult manifestation can be a difficulty processing change. So resisting moving through life stages or just resisting change in and of itself. And this often shows up what we would call somatically or in the body, because then your body is literally rejecting what your mind refuses to confront. So a few of the other things that you might recognize in your life if you are someone who does GERD is surrounded by people or circumstances or environments that it's like, I can't stomach this. Like, I can't handle this. You're disgusted or you're angry or you're like fed up. It's another one of those metaphoric kind of things. I'm fed up. That really is talking about the kind of environments that we find ourselves in and our reaction to them. Or if you feel silenced, invalidated, or unimportant frequently in your key relationships. Also, you fear confrontation, but this eventually leads to you resenting your own silence. But because you can't speak up for yourself, that resentment ends up, so it's internalized, and then we end up getting resentful in our relationships as well. And speaking back to that over responsibility, these are the people that feel responsible for maintaining peace. Even if these are not their people, their responsibility, they will involve themselves into things to try to keep the peace. And oftentimes when people don't even want this person involved, or it has nothing to do with them. And eventually that comes at the cost of your own health. And that whole fear of change thing keeps us clinging to familiarity, even when it's painful. So you might currently have issues with authority figures. So this could be bosses or people that you perceive to be co-workers who might be one-upping you a little bit, or even in your interpersonal relationships within your family. And so this often leads to a strong need to control as the only way of feeling safe. Now, GERD is the body's metaphor for indigestion on all levels. So indigestion emotionally, mentally, spiritually. The esophagus is metaphorically our channel of expression, right? So where we speak our truth, where we speak up for ourselves, where we speak about how we feel, who we are, what we think. And when our truth or emotion is suppressed, that energy has nowhere to go. So we push it down. Then it gets into our gut, and our gut's like, heck no, and it pushes it back up. All of that acid gets pushed back up. And the acid represents the bitterness, the anger, the unprocessed emotion that is just burning to get out. Our throat is also connected to boundaries and communication and self-worth. So reflux symbolizes kind of replaying old stories or reliving the past instead of moving forward. Metaphysically, reflux says, you've swallowed too much that isn't yours and it's time to release it. So healing GERD begins with learning to digest life differently, both emotionally and energetically. So some of the ways that you can maybe start to be curious about this and the emotionality of this condition would be just to ask yourself a simple question like, what situation or person can I no longer stomach? Or maybe what words or truths have I swallowed to stay safe or to stay accepted? Maybe also a great question would be, where am I saying yes when my whole body wants to say no? What are you afraid of? What's going to happen if you express your needs or boundaries? Or even what joy or success do you feel guilty for experiencing? So with mind change, we're going to go back and figure out where your voice got blocked. In what ways are you not speaking up? In which ways are you not saying the words, even to yourself, that need to be heard? And very frequently people resist this step because they know a lot of what's going to come out is kind of like toxic and yucky. And so that's the work that we do in Mind Changes. We allow that stuff to come out and see the very good reason we've been holding on to it. And once it gets out, then we can decide, is that something that actually needs to be said? Or was it to another person? Or was it that we just needed to say it to ourselves and be honest with ourselves? And within Mind Change work, we get to start to learn boundary rehearsal. We get to start practicing safe, like small no's in going way back into our childhood until they are wired in as natural and as preferable. And then we rewire guilt responses. So transforming the old belief that joy leads to punishment and that joy is healthy and inherent and joy brings more joy and gratitude and all the good things. And what we're really doing through all this work is reclaiming safety, not through a coping mechanism, but through the subconscious programming so that we can be free and trust ourselves to speak our truth, but still be safe. And often then what we speak up more of is going to be more good things because that's what we're holding within. And we also learn to stomach change, right? That's what Mind Change is all about, change. And if we go in and see the very good reasons we're holding on to things and do the change in real time and see that it wasn't all the things that we thought it was going to be. And then you realize, hey, listen, I can handle this. I can digest this. I can process this. So you see, GERD isn't just about acid. It's about emotion, truth, and ultimately it's about freedom. The body burns when the heart and the voice have been silenced for too long. When you begin to express what's true, and very frequently we first have to be able to get in to see what's true, and then release the guilt, and then trust that we can handle change. Your body can begin to finally cool down. All right. Hope that helps. And remember, your mind can change. And when it does, everything changes. So if you're ready to take the next step, we'd love to help. You can book a free discovery call with one of our founders to explore your unique situation. And we can help you figure out what the next best step would be for you. Or if you already know that you're ready, you can start right away with getting into one of our online courses. So module 1 or module 2, module 1 would need to be done first, but each one of those modules comes with 2 private sessions with a trained practitioner. So the online course and the sessions are both designed to help you uncover the roots of your symptoms and then rewire and reprogram so that the change comes naturally and normally. So if this episode spoke to you today, please subscribe, download, share, and leave a comment. And then just pass it along to someone else who needs to hear it. Each click helps this message reach more people who are searching for hope and healing. All right. Thanks for joining us today on the Mind Change podcast, where we are changing the world one mind at a time.